The massive space station turned slowly in the darkness above Kepler Prime. Its metal walls stretched for miles in every direction, big enough to hold entire cities inside its corridors. Ships from dozens of different worlds docked at its many ports, bringing visitors from across the galaxy to this neutral meeting place. Ambassador Zethkar stood in his private office, looking out through the thick glass at the stars beyond. His insect-like body was covered in natural armor that looked like blue crystal, and his forearms moved as he read through data files on his desk. Each file contained information about the newest species to join the galactic community. Humans, they called themselves. Strange creatures from a small blue world they named Earth. Zethkar had seen many new species over his long career, but these humans puzzled him. Most young civilizations followed predictable patterns when they first discovered faster than light travel. They explored nearby systems carefully, made contact with established trade routes, and slowly introduced themselves to galactic society. Humans had done none of these things. They appeared 37 years ago with basic FTL ships and polite requests for trade agreements. Since then, they had kept mostly to themselves, handling their own problems and asking for very little from the galactic community. Their home system had only one world suitable for life, with moderate resources and a population of about 8 billion people. The door to his office opened with a soft sound, and his assistant entered. Like Zethkar, she belonged to the Vraxian Empire, but her armor was green instead of blue, marking her younger age. "The human delegation has arrived," she said in their clicking language. "They brought one ship as requested." Zethkar set down his files and walked to the window. In the distance, he could see a human vessel approaching the docking bay. It was smaller than he expected, maybe half the size of a typical Vraxian cruiser. Its design looked simple compared to the curved, artistic shapes that most species preferred for their ships. The human ship had straight lines and square corners, like it was built for function rather than beauty. "Have they requested anything unusual for their demonstration?" Zethkar asked. "Nothing out of the ordinary. Standard military assessment protocols. They want to show ground combat capabilities as well as space operations." This made Zethkar pause. Most species focused their demonstrations on ship battles and defensive systems. Ground combat was considered less important in an age where wars were usually fought between fleets in space. Why would humans want to show off their soldiers when they could display their most powerful warships? The Galactic Council had been evaluating new civilizations for over 3,000 years. The process was always the same. New species would bring their biggest ships, most advanced weapons, and largest armies to show their strength. The Council would watch, take notes, and decide how much respect and territory the newcomers deserved. Some species brought massive battleships with weapons that could destroy planets. Others showed off energy shields that could stop any attack, or stealth technology that made their ships invisible. The Karathi always demonstrated their plasma cannons, which could melt through any known armor. The Zelani liked to show how their ships could change color and shape to blend into space itself. Each demonstration followed the same basic pattern. The newcomers would position their forces in the testing area, simulate battles against holographic enemies, and prove they could defend themselves against known threats. The council members would rate their performance and assign them a place in the galactic hierarchy. Humans had requested something different. Instead of bringing a fleet of warships, they sent one medium-sized cruiser. Instead of focusing on space battles, they wanted to show ground operations. Captain Jake Morrison, their military representative, had specifically asked for urban combat scenarios and multi-objective missions. Zethkar walked back to his desk and picked up the human military files again. The information was confusing and incomplete. Human military organizations seemed strange compared to other species. They divided their forces into small units that operated independently, rather than the large formations most civilizations preferred. Other species built their armies around overwhelming firepower or superior technology. The hegemony used massive robots controlled by central computers. The Star Federation deployed energy weapons that could level entire cities. The Trade Alliance relied on automated defense systems that required minimal crew. Humans appeared to organize their military around individual soldiers working in small teams. Their weapons were less advanced than most galactic standards, but they seemed to emphasize training and flexibility over raw power. Intelligence reports mentioned something called combined arms tactics, but the concept made little sense to galactic military experts. A soft chime indicated an incoming message. Zethkar activated his communication system, and the image of Captain Morrison appeared on his screen. The human looked much smaller than most galactic species, with pale skin and short brown hair. He wore a simple uniform in dark blue colors. "Ambassador Zethkar, this is Captain Morrison aboard the EDF Valiant. We're ready to begin the demonstration whenever the Council is prepared." "Welcome to Kepler Prime, Captain. The Council members are gathering in the observation chambers now. We have prepared Testing Zone Gamma for your use with full simulation capabilities." "Thank you, sir. I should mention that we've brought a ground team as well as ship operations personnel. Will that be acceptable?" Zethkar looked at his notes. Again, ground demonstrations were rare but not forbidden. "Of course. How large is your ground force?" 50 personnel, sir. We believe that will be sufficient for the scenarios we have planned." 50 soldiers. Zethkar felt confused again. Most species brought thousands of troops for ground demonstrations, along with heavy vehicles and support equipment. How could 50 humans possibly show meaningful military capability? "Very well, Captain. Report to Testing Zone Gamma in 2 hours. The Council will observe from the command center." The communication ended, leaving Zethkar alone with his questions. He gathered his files and headed toward the Council chambers, where representatives from 17 different species would evaluate human military capability. The main Council chamber was enormous, with seating areas designed for the different body types of member species. Floating platforms accommodated gas-breathing aliens, while heated sections provided comfort for reptilian delegates. Translation systems converted speech between dozens of languages in real time. Zethkar took his place among the other ambassadors and military advisors. Around him, conversations buzzed with curiosity about the human demonstration. Most council members had limited contact with humans and knew little about their military capabilities. Admiral Korath of the Star Federation, a tall being with silver skin and no visible eyes, leaned toward Zethkar. "What do your intelligence reports say about human military technology?" "It's difficult to assess," Zethkar replied honestly. "Their weapons appear primitive by our standards, but their tactical methods are unlike anything in our databases. They seem to emphasize individual initiative and small unit operations." "Primitive weapons." Admiral Korath sounded amused. "Then this should be a brief demonstration. General Thax of the War Clans, a massive creature covered in thick fur and natural armor, overheard their conversation. "Small units are ineffective against modern warfare. Victory requires overwhelming force and superior firepower. These humans will learn this lesson quickly." Other council members nodded in agreement. The principles of galactic warfare had been established over millennia of conflict. Large formations, powerful weapons, and centralized command structures had proven most effective time and again. Whatever humans planned to show would likely be interesting as a curiosity, but not impressive as a military demonstration. The viewing screens activated, showing Testing Zone Gamma from multiple angles. The area contained simulated urban environments, asteroid fields for space combat, and various terrain types for ground operations. Automated systems could create realistic enemy forces and challenging scenarios for testing military capabilities. Captain Morrison's ship, the Valiant, moved into position near the testing zone. Compared to the massive vessels that usually participated in these demonstrations, it looked almost toy-like. Its simple design and modest size drew quiet comments from council observers. "Attention, council members," came Captain Morrison's voice through the communication system. "The human delegation is ready to begin demonstration of our military capabilities. We appreciate this opportunity to show what human forces can accomplish." Zethkar settled back in his seat, curious despite his doubts. In his long career, he had seen hundreds of military demonstrations, Most followed predictable patterns and offered few surprises. Something about the humans suggested this might be different, though he couldn't explain why. The demonstration was about to begin, and the Galactic Council would soon learn what a human army really looked like. The asteroid field of Testing Zone Gamma stretched for thousands of miles in all directions. Huge rocks drifted slowly through space, some as large as mountains, others no bigger than houses. The Council had chosen this area because it provided natural obstacles and cover for realistic combat scenarios. Captain Morrison positioned the Valiant near the edge of the field and opened communication with the Council Observation Center. His voice remained calm and professional as he spoke to the assembled representatives of 17 different species. Council members, we request permission to demonstrate ground combat operations first. Our ship-to-ship capabilities will be more meaningful after you understand how human forces operate on the surface. Ambassador Zethkar exchanged glances with other council members. This was already unusual. Most species wanted to show their most impressive capabilities first, usually massive warships with devastating weapons. Starting with ground forces suggested either supreme confidence or poor judgment. Permission granted, Captain Morrison, Zethkar replied. The urban simulation environment is ready for your use. The viewing screen switched to show a mock city built inside a large asteroid. The artificial environment contained buildings, streets, defensive positions, and various obstacles designed to test military tactics. Holographic enemy forces would provide realistic opposition once the demonstration began. A small transport ship left the Valiant and headed toward the simulated city. Council members leaned forward in their seats, curious to see what 50 human soldiers could accomplish against the standard testing scenarios that had challenged much larger forces from other species. Lieutenant Colonel Lisa Bennett led the human ground team as they entered the urban environment. She was a compact woman with short blonde hair and quick, alert eyes. Her soldiers spread out behind her, each wearing simple armor and carrying weapons that looked basic compared to galactic standards. This is Ground Team Alpha, Bennett reported over the communication system. Beginning urban assault scenario. 50 personnel deployed and ready. The simulation activated, creating 200 holographic enemy soldiers positioned throughout the city. These artificial opponents used standard galactic military tactics with heavy weapons, defensive positions, and centralized command structure. The scenario was designed to test how attacking forces dealt with superior numbers and prepared defenses. General Thax of the War Clans watched the display with amusement. 50 against 200 using primitive weapons. This will be over. Quickly. What happened next surprised every council member. Instead of advancing as a single unit toward the enemy positions, the humans split into multiple small groups. Each team moved independently, taking different routes through the urban environment. Sergeant Alex Turner led one team of 8 soldiers through a drainage tunnel that ran beneath the main street. The tunnel was narrow and uncomfortable, barely wide enough for a human to crawl through. Most galactic species would have considered it impassable, but Turner's team moved through it quickly and quietly. Underground route secured, Turner reported, moving to position behind enemy lines. At the same time, Corporal Nina Foster positioned her team on the roof of a tall building overlooking the main plaza. They carried long-range weapons and communication equipment, turning the rooftop into an observation and fire support position. Overwatch established, Foster reported. We have eyes on enemy movements throughout the western sector. The remaining human teams spread throughout the city, each taking positions that gave them specific advantages. Some focused on gathering information about enemy positions and movements. Others prepared to attack key targets or provide support for advancing units. Admiral Korath of the Star Federation studied the display with growing confusion. What are they doing? This is not how military operations work. They should concentrate their forces and attack the strongest enemy position. Zethkar watched the humans with fascination. Their tactics made no sense according to established military doctrine. But something about their coordination impressed him. Each small team seemed to know exactly what the others were doing, even without constant communication. The human attack began 15 minutes after deployment. Instead of a frontal assault on enemy positions, It started with Turner's team appearing behind enemy lines. They struck quickly at command and supply positions, causing confusion among the holographic defenders. At the same moment, Foster's Overwatch team began providing accurate fire support, picking off enemy soldiers who tried to move between positions. Their weapons might be primitive by galactic standards, but their accuracy was remarkable. Staff Sergeant Maria Santos led a reconnaissance team that had been gathering intelligence on enemy movements. Her information allowed other human units to avoid strong defensive positions while attacking weak points in the enemy formation. Enemy response patterns identified, Santos reported. They're following standard defensive protocols. Recommend strike on communications hub in Sector 4. Major Kevin Walsh coordinated the human response from a mobile command post. Unlike the fixed command centers used by most galactic militaries, Walsh moved his position constantly, staying close to the action while maintaining overall coordination. All units execute Phase 2, Walsh ordered. Strike teams advance on marked targets. Support teams maintain overwatch and communications. The holographic enemy forces responded according to their programming, using tactics that had proven effective against other species. They concentrated their firepower on what appeared to be the main human advance, called for reinforcements, and prepared to counterattack. But the human advance they targeted turned out to be a deception, while the enemy focused on a few soldiers moving openly through the streets. The real attack came from multiple directions simultaneously. Turner's team struck from behind, Foster's team provided covering fire from above, and other human units hit targets throughout the enemy position. The coordination between human teams amazed the Council observers. Each unit seemed to anticipate what the others would do, adjusting their actions to support the overall mission without waiting for orders from higher command. Captain Luke Phillips led an electronic warfare team that jammed enemy communications while keeping human systems operational. His equipment was simple compared to galactic standards, but he used it in ways that created maximum disruption of enemy coordination. Enemy command structure is breaking down, Phillips reported. They can't coordinate their defense effectively. Chief Warrant Officer Sam Jackson solved problems using available materials in ways that impressed even experienced Council military advisors. When his team needed to breach a defended position, he created explosives from materials found in the simulated city. When they needed better communications, he improved their equipment using salvaged electronics. The battle continued for 2 hours, with human forces steadily gaining ground against superior numbers. Their tactics remained flexible and unpredictable, adapting to changing conditions faster than the enemy could respond. What disturbed many Council observers was human willingness to take risks. Other galactic species prioritized protecting their forces above completing objectives, but humans accepted casualties when necessary to achieve their goals. They calculated risks carefully, but they were willing to act when the potential gains justified the costs. The simulation ended with complete human victory. 50 soldiers had defeated 200 enemies while suffering minimal casualties themselves. More importantly, they had done it using tactics that no Council member had seen before. The observation chamber fell silent as Council members tried to understand what they had witnessed. The humans had violated every principle of established military doctrine, yet they had achieved decisive victory against overwhelming odds. Admiral Korath spoke first, his voice uncertain. How did they coordinate so effectively without central command? Their units operated independently, yet they worked together perfectly. General Thax looked troubled. Their weapons were inferior. Their numbers were smaller, yet they won easily. This should not be possible. Captain Morrison's voice came through the communication system. Council members, this concludes our ground combat demonstration. We are ready to proceed with space operations if you wish to continue. Zethkar realized that every assumption he had made about human military capability was wrong. These were not primitive warriors using outdated tactics. They were something entirely new in galactic warfare, and he was beginning to understand why they had requested this demonstration. Captain Morrison, Zethkar said carefully, before we proceed to space operations, could you explain the tactical principles your forces just demonstrated? Certainly, Ambassador. We call it combined arms tactics with emphasis on individual, initiative, and small unit independence. Each team is trained to operate autonomously while supporting the overall mission objectives. The council members looked at each other with growing concern. If 50 human soldiers could achieve such results, what could larger human forces accomplish? And more importantly, how many humans were there in the galaxy? The demonstration was far from over, and the Galactic Council was beginning to realize they might need to completely reconsider their understanding of military power. The arrival of Admiral Helen Carter changed everything. Her ship, the EDF Freedom, was 3 times larger than Captain Morrison's cruiser and bristled with weapon systems that had been carefully concealed during its approach to the station. The BAS council members watched through their viewing screens as the battleship took position near the testing zone. Admiral Carter was a tall woman with gray hair and sharp blue eyes that missed nothing. She had commanded human fleets for over 20 years and understood exactly what impression the ground demonstration had made on the galactic observers. Now it was time to show them what human forces could really accomplish. Council members, Admiral Carter's voice carried absolute confidence. Captain Morrison's demonstration was impressive, but it represented only basic human capabilities. You have requested expanded testing scenarios. We are prepared to show you the full spectrum of human military doctrine. Ambassador Zethkar felt a chill run through his crystalline armor. If the ground demonstration had been basic capabilities, what were they about to witness? Around him, other council members shifted nervously in their seats. Admiral Carter, Zethkar replied carefully. We have prepared multiple testing scenarios as requested. These include numerical disadvantage situations, resource scarcity challenges, hostile environment operations, and complex multi-objective missions. Excellent. We have brought 300 personnel for this expanded demonstration. That should be sufficient for your testing requirements. 300 humans. General. Thax of the war clans made a sound that might have been laughter. Admiral, our testing scenarios are designed for forces numbering in the thousands. 300 soldiers cannot possibly handle the challenges we have prepared. General Thax, we appreciate your concern. However, we believe our force size is appropriate for the demonstrations you have requested. The first expanded scenario began in a hostile asteroid field, where human forces faced simulated enemies that outnumbered them 10-1. The holographic opponents used advanced weapons and coordinated tactics that had defeated many species' military demonstrations in the past. Colonel Ryan Mitchell commanded the human response from aboard a mobile command ship. Unlike the massive command vessels used by most galactic species, Mitchell's headquarters could relocate quickly and operate with minimal crew. All units, enemy strength is approximately 3,000 hostiles in prepared defensive positions. We are implementing Plan Delta with modifications for local conditions. The human response began with something the Council had never seen before. Instead of attacking the enemy positions directly, the humans turned the environment itself into a weapon. Teams led by Staff Sergeant Maria Santos identified asteroids that could be moved using carefully placed explosives. Within an hour, human engineering teams had altered the entire battlefield. Asteroids that had provided cover for enemy positions were either destroyed or moved to block enemy movement. New corridors were created that allowed human forces to approach targets while remaining protected from enemy fire. Battlefield preparation complete, Santos reported. Enemy positions are now isolated and vulnerable to individual unit attacks. The Council observers watched in amazement as 300 humans began systematically dismantling a force of 3,000 enemies. They used the altered terrain to divide enemy forces into smaller groups, then defeated each group separately using overwhelming local superiority. Captain Luke Phillips coordinated electronic warfare operations that confused enemy communications, while maintaining perfect human coordination. His teams used simple equipment in ways that created effects far beyond their apparent capabilities. Enemy command structure is fragmented, Phillips reported. They cannot coordinate defensive actions or call for mutual support. But the most disturbing aspect of human operations was their psychological warfare. Teams led by Captain Nina Walker used deception and misdirection to make enemy forces believe they faced much larger attacking forces than actually existed. Walker's specialists created false radio traffic, simulated additional unit movements, and placed decoy equipment that convinced enemy sensors they were surrounded by massive human formations. The psychological pressure caused enemy units to make poor tactical decisions and waste ammunition on targets that did not exist. Enemy morale is breaking down, Walker reported. Their forces are abandoning prepared positions and attempting to retreat. The second scenario tested human capabilities under severe resource limitations. The simulation placed human forces on a barren asteroid with minimal equipment and supplies, facing enemies that had significant material advantages. Chief Warrant. Officer Sam Jackson led the human response to resource scarcity, with innovations that impressed even the most experienced Council military advisors. His teams created weapons from mining equipment, built fortifications from asteroid materials, and established communication networks using salvaged electronics. All units, we have successfully manufactured ammunition using asteroid mineral deposits, Jackson reported. Defensive positions are ready using locally available materials. The humans demonstrated an ability to find solutions in situations that other species considered hopeless. When conventional weapons failed, they created alternatives. When standard tactics were impossible, they invented new approaches. When supplies ran low, they found ways to continue operations using whatever was available. Master Sergeant David Cooper coordinated supply operations that kept human forces effective despite severe limitations. His logistics teams moved supplies through dangerous areas, established hidden depots, and maintained operations that should have been impossible under the circumstances. Supply lines established and secured, Cooper reported. All units have sufficient resources for extended operations. The third scenario placed human forces in a toxic environment where most species required heavy protective equipment that limited their mobility and effectiveness. The atmosphere contained corrosive chemicals that damaged standard equipment and made extended operations nearly impossible. Lieutenant Colonel Amy Rodriguez adapted human tactics to operate effectively in conditions that other species found prohibitive. Her teams used modified equipment, altered their operational patterns, and found ways to turn environmental hazards into tactical advantages. Environmental conditions are now working in our favor, Rodriguez reported. Enemy forces cannot operate effectively in areas we have contaminated further. The humans had deliberately made certain areas of the battlefield even more toxic, creating zones that blocked enemy movement while remaining passable to properly equipped human forces. They turned environmental dangers into defensive barriers that channeled enemy attacks into prepared killing zones. The final scenario tested human ability to handle complex missions with multiple simultaneous objectives. The simulation required forces to rescue hostages, destroy specific targets, gather intelligence, and defend key positions all at the same time. Major Patricia Hayes coordinated the multi-objective mission with precision that amazed Council observers. Her forces split into specialized teams, each handling different aspects of the mission while maintaining coordination with other elements. Rescue Team Alpha has secured hostages and is moving to extraction point, Hayes reported. Demolition Team Beta has destroyed primary targets. Intelligence Team Gamma has obtained required information. Defense Team Delta is holding all assigned positions. The humans completed all mission objectives simultaneously while maintaining the ability to support each other when unexpected complications arose. Their flexibility and adaptability allowed them to handle changing conditions without losing focus on their assigned goals. Throughout all scenarios, human forces demonstrated capabilities that violated every principle of galactic military science. They achieved effects that should have required superior numbers, better weapons, or advanced technology. Instead, they used training, creativity, and tactical innovation to overcome every challenge the Council could present. Admiral Korith of the Star Federation watched the demonstrations with growing alarm. This is impossible. They are achieving results that contradict established military principles. How can inferior forces consistently defeat superior enemies? General Thax appeared deeply troubled. Their weapons are primitive, their equipment is basic, yet they win every engagement. Something is wrong with our understanding of warfare. Admiral Carter's voice came through the communication system as the demonstrations concluded. Council members, this completes our expanded military assessment. We hope this has provided adequate demonstration of human military capabilities. The observation chamber fell silent. Every council member realized they had witnessed something that changed their understanding of military power. The humans had not just demonstrated superior tactics or better training. They had revealed a completely different approach to warfare that made traditional galactic military doctrine obsolete. Zethkar found his voice first. Admiral Carter, these demonstrations raise important questions about human military doctrine and its implications for galactic security. We understand your concerns, Ambassador. Perhaps we should discuss the broader context of human military capabilities and our intentions for galactic relations. The alarm systems throughout Kepler Prime Station began screaming at exactly 1447 Galactic Standard Time. Red warning lights flashed in every corridor, and automated announcements echoed through the massive structure in 17 different languages. Alert! Hostile fleet detected approaching station perimeter. All civilian vessels move to safe distance immediately. Council security forces prepare for defensive operations. Ambassador Zethkar rushed from the observation chamber toward the POM main command center, his forearms moving rapidly as he accessed emergency protocols on his personal communicator. Behind him, other council members followed with expressions of alarm and confusion. In the command center, tactical displays showed the approaching threat. 47 ships moved in formation toward the station, their energy signatures matching known Ravager vessels. The Ravagers were a hostile species that raided peaceful systems and avoided direct confrontation with Council military forces. Fleet Admiral Corrin of the Council Defense Forces, a massive being with thick gray skin and small black eyes, studied the tactical situation with growing concern. They have chosen their timing well. Our main defensive fleets are 3 hours away at minimum response time. The Ravager fleet had appeared just outside sensor range and moved quickly toward the station. Their ships were designed for hit-and-run attacks, with heavy weapons and strong shields but limited staying power in extended battles. They apparently saw the military demonstrations as an opportunity to attack while defenses were focused on testing rather than security. What forces do we have available for immediate response? Zethkar asked. 2 Council patrol ships and the testing zone security vessels, Admiral Corrin replied grimly. Against 47 Ravager warships, we cannot hope to hold them off until reinforcements arrive. The council members who had been observing human military demonstrations gathered around the tactical displays. The Ravager fleet would reach the station in less than 30 minutes, and evacuation procedures would take at least an hour to complete. We should contact the human vessels, suggested General Thax. They have shown impressive ground capabilities, but can they assist with fleet defense? Admiral Corrin shook his head. They have only 2 ships and neither is designed for major fleet actions. We cannot ask them to sacrifice themselves against overwhelming odds. Admiral Carter's voice came through the communication system before anyone could respond. Kepler Prime Command, this is Admiral Carter aboard EDF Freedom. We are tracking the incoming hostile fleet and request permission to assist in defensive operations. Admiral Carter, Zethkar replied quickly. We appreciate your offer, but you are heavily outnumbered. Standard Council protocol recommends withdrawal to safe distance until our main defensive fleets can respond. Ambassador, we understand the tactical situation. However, we have alliance obligations to protect Council space and personnel. We request immediate authorization to engage hostile forces. Alliance obligations. The word sent a chill through every Council member. Humans considered themselves allied with Council forces, which meant they felt duty-bound to defend the station, regardless of odds or costs. Captain Morrison's voice joined the communication channel. Admiral Carter, EDF Valiant is ready for combat operations. All systems are operational and crew is at battle stations. Acknowledged, Captain Morrison. Prepare to demonstrate what happens when hostile forces threaten our allies. Admiral Corrin watched the tactical display with growing amazement. The 2 human ships were moving to intercept the Ravager fleet, positioning themselves between the raiders and the station. It was either an act of supreme courage or complete insanity. Admiral Carter, Admiral Corrin said urgently, your forces are outnumbered more than 20 to 1. This is not a demonstration scenario. These are real weapons that will cause real damage to your ships and crew. Admiral Corrin, we understand the risks. However, human military doctrine is clear about our responsibilities to Allied forces. We will defend this station. The human ships moved into the asteroid field where the earlier demonstrations had taken place. Instead of positioning themselves for traditional fleet engagement, they scattered among the larger asteroids and seemed to disappear from standard sensors. "What are they doing?" General Thax asked. "They should concentrate their firepower and attempt to hold the Ravagers at maximum range." "I think they are using the asteroids for cover," Admiral Corrin replied. "But that will only delay their destruction, not prevent it." The Ravager fleet entered the asteroid field in standard attack formation, with their largest ships leading and smaller vessels providing support. Their energy weapons began firing at long range, targeting the areas where human ships had last been detected. The asteroids exploded under Ravager bombardment, sending clouds of debris throughout the engagement zone. For several minutes it appeared that the human ships had been destroyed in the opening exchange of fire. Then Captain Morrison's voice cut through the communication channels with calm precision. "EDF. Valiant to all Council forces. Enemy fleet is now within engagement range. Beginning attack pattern Alpha." The asteroid field suddenly came alive with weapons fire from unexpected directions. The human ships had not been destroyed. Instead, they had used the asteroid debris as concealment, while repositioning for attack. The Valiant emerged from behind a large asteroid and fired on the nearest Ravager ship with weapons that had not been visible during the peaceful demonstrations. What appeared to be standard sensor arrays opened to reveal missile launchers. Cargo bay doors slid back to expose energy cannons. The entire ship seemed to transform from a simple cruiser into a heavily armed warship. The first Ravager vessel exploded under concentrated human fire before its crew could react to the unexpected attack. Two more ships suffered critical damage as the Freedom appeared from a different direction, attacking with weapons that exceeded all known performance specifications. "Impossible," Admiral Corrin whispered. "Those energy readings are beyond safe operational limits. Their ships should suffer catastrophic system failures at those power levels." Commander Pete Sullivan's voice came through the communication system from the Valiant. "Engineering teams have implemented combat power configuration. All systems are operating within acceptable parameters for combat operations." The human ships moved through the asteroid field with speed and agility that defied Council understanding of physics and engineering. They used the terrain to break up Ravager formations, forcing individual engagements where human technological superiority provided decisive advantages. Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez coordinated targeting from the Valiant, with accuracy that seemed impossible. Human weapons hit targets at ranges that exceeded theoretical maximum effectiveness for energy weapons in the local stellar environment. Target acquired, range 47,000 kilometers, Rodriguez reported. Direct hit on enemy command, vessel. 47,000 kilometers was nearly twice the effective range for most galactic energy weapons, yet human systems achieved precise hits at distances other species considered impossible. The Ravager fleet tried to respond with standard tactics, concentrating their firepower on single targets and attempting to overwhelm human defenses through superior numbers. These approaches had proven effective against other species for centuries. The humans simply refused to cooperate with enemy expectations. When Ravagers concentrated on one human ship, the other would attack from an unexpected direction. When enemies tried to surround human positions, the human vessels would disappear into asteroid cover and reappear somewhere else entirely. Chief Warrant Officer Sam Jackson coordinated damage control operations that kept human ships fighting, despite taking hits that should have disabled them. His teams rerouted power systems, repaired battle damage, and maintained weapons effectiveness under conditions that would cripple most galactic vessels. "Hull breach in Section 7 sealed," Jackson reported. "Primary weapons systems restored to full effectiveness." The battle lasted 27 minutes. When it ended, 47 Ravager ships had been completely destroyed with 0 human casualties. The 2 human vessels showed battle damage but remained fully operational. The silence in the Council Command Center stretched for long moments as tactical displays confirmed the impossible result. 2 human ships had defeated a fleet that should have overwhelmed them through sheer numbers. Admiral Carter's voice broke the silence. Kepler Prime Command, this is EDF Freedom. Hostile fleet has been neutralized. Station security is restored. We are ready to provide assistance with debris cleanup if required. Admiral Corrin found his voice first. Admiral Carter, your tactical performance exceeds all known parameters for fleet engagement. How did you achieve such results against overwhelming numerical superiority? Admiral Corrin, we used standard human fleet tactics adapted for asteroid field engagement. The enemy followed predictable attack patterns that allowed us to achieve tactical superiority despite strategic disadvantage. Zethkar stared at the tactical displays showing the debris field that had been a Ravager fleet. Every assumption about military power and galactic security had just been proven wrong. Admiral Carter, Zethkar said carefully, we need to discuss the broader implications of human military capabilities for galactic stability. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened 6 hours after the Ravager fleet ceased to exist. Representatives from all 17 member species gathered in the main chamber, their conversations filled with urgent whispers and worried exchanges. The comfortable assumptions that had guided galactic politics for thousands of years lay in ruins among the asteroid debris. Ambassador Zethkar called the session to order, his crystalline armor reflecting the nervous energy that filled the chamber. Around him, military advisors and political leaders struggled to understand what they had witnessed. Fellow council members, Zethkar began, we face an unprecedented situation. The human military demonstration has revealed capabilities that exceed our previous understanding of warfare and technology. We must determine what this means for galactic security and political stability. Admiral Helen Carter entered the chamber accompanied by a woman in simple but authoritative military dress. The newcomer was tall with silver hair and calm gray, eyes that seemed to evaluate everything around her with professional interest. Council members, Admiral Carter said, I would like to introduce General Patricia Hayes, Supreme Commander of Earth Defense Forces. She has traveled here to discuss humanity's position within galactic society. General Hayes stepped forward and spoke in a clear, steady voice that carried absolute confidence. Honored representatives, I thank you for this opportunity to address your concerns about human military capabilities and our intentions for galactic relations. Admiral Corrin of the Star Federation leaned forward in his seat. General Hayes, our tactical analysis of the recent engagement suggests human military strength far exceeds what any single species should possess. We need to understand the true scope of your capabilities. Admiral Corrin, I appreciate your directness. The forces you observe today represent approximately 0.3% of total human military capability. We maintain defensive fleets in 47 star systems, with strategic reserves that significantly exceed the demonstration forces. The chamber fell silent. 0.3%. If 2 ships could destroy 47 enemy vessels, what could the full human military accomplish? The mathematics were terrifying to contemplate. General Thax of the War Clan spoke with obvious concern. General Hayes, you claim to control 47 star systems. Our intelligence suggests humans have only recently achieved faster than light travel. How is such expansion possible? General Thax, human exploration and colonization efforts have proceeded for 37 years along vectors that avoided established galactic trade routes and populated systems. We chose this approach to prevent conflicts while we established our territorial boundaries. You deliberately avoided contact with galactic civilization while building an interstellar empire? Zethkar asked. Ambassador, we preferred to understand galactic society before committing ourselves to political relationships. Our exploration revealed that most species expand through conquest or economic domination. We chose a different path. General Hayes activated a holographic display that showed human territorial claims throughout the galaxy. The map revealed colonies, mining operations, and military bases scattered across hundreds of light-years of space that the Council had believed was empty or unexplored. Our colonies are established in systems with minimal existing life forms, General Hayes explained. We have strict policies against displacing indigenous species or claiming worlds that other civilizations consider valuable. The scope of human expansion stunned every council member. While they had been treating humans as newcomers to galactic society, Earth had been building a civilization that rivaled the largest galactic empires. Admiral Corrin studied the territorial map with growing alarm. Your expansion puts human forces within striking distance of every major galactic power. This represents a fundamental shift in the balance of military strength. Admiral, human forces are positioned defensively to protect our colonies and trade routes. We have no territorial ambitions regarding worlds claimed by Council species, but you could threaten any Council territory if you chose to do so, General Thax observed. General Thax, most Council species could threaten human territory if they chose to do so. The difference is that we choose not to make such threats. Captain Morrison entered the chamber and whispered something to General Hayes. She nodded and addressed the Council again. Council members, I have received reports that news of today's engagement is spreading throughout galactic communication networks. Several species are requesting immediate military consultations with human representatives. The political implications began to dawn on Council members. Species that had been planning aggressive expansion or territorial disputes now faced the reality that human forces could intervene decisively in any galactic conflict. General Hayes, Zethkar said carefully, what are human intentions regarding galactic politics and territorial disputes? Ambassador, humans desire peaceful coexistence and mutually beneficial trade relationships with all species willing to engage in good faith diplomacy. We seek no territorial expansion at the expense of existing civilizations. And if species are not willing to engage in good faith diplomacy? Admiral Corrin asked. General Hayes's expression became slightly colder. Admiral, humanity will not tolerate aggression against our citizens, our allies, or our interests. Any species that commits acts of violence within human-protected space will face the full military response of Earth Defense Forces. The threat was delivered quietly, but its implications echoed through the chamber. Human-protected space, apparently, included Council territory, since humans had just defended Kepler Prime Station against raiders. You consider Council space to be under human protection? General Thax asked. General, we consider Council members to be allies deserving protection from hostile forces. Today's engagement demonstrated our commitment to that principle. The discussion continued for hours as Council members tried to understand the new reality of galactic politics. Humans possessed overwhelming military superiority, controlled vast territories, and maintained defensive positions that could influence any major conflict. Yet they claimed no desire for conquest or political domination. Their territorial expansion had deliberately avoided conflicts with existing civilizations. Their military doctrine emphasized defensive rather than aggressive operations. General Hayes, Zethkar finally asked, what do humans want from the Galactic Council? Ambassador, we seek formal recognition of human territorial claims, full voting rights within Council deliberations, and establishment of diplomatic and trade relationships with all member species. The terms were remarkably modest considering human military superiority. Most species with such overwhelming advantages would demand tribute, territorial concessions, or political submission from weaker civilizations. And in return, Admiral Corrin asked, Admiral, we offer protection from hostile forces, access to human technology and resources, and cooperation in maintaining galactic peace and stability. The vote was unanimous. Within hours, the Galactic Council granted humanity full membership, with complete territorial recognition and voting rights. Several species that had been planning aggressive expansion quietly revised their colonization plans to avoid human-protected space. Captain Morrison received new orders to establish permanent, human diplomatic and military presence at Council stations throughout the galaxy. The age of human isolation had ended, and galactic society would need time to adjust to new realities. The most significant change came in military education. Young officers from dozens of species requested permission to study at human war colleges. Eager to learn the tactical and strategic principles that made human forces so devastatingly effective, General Hayes established exchange programs that allowed promising alien officers to train with human forces, while human advisors worked with council militaries to improve their capabilities. The galaxy has learned an important lesson, General Hayes told Admiral Carter as they prepared to return to Earth. When humans say we come in peace, it is not because we lack the capability for war. It is because we choose peace, despite possessing the power to impose our will on others. The final scene showed young council military officers arriving at human training facilities, eager to understand how a species from a small blue world had revolutionized galactic warfare. News of human military capabilities spread throughout known space, reaching civilizations far beyond council territory. The message was clear and unmistakable. The galaxy had a new dominant military power, and that power preferred diplomacy to conquest. The universe would never be the same. Humanity had taken its place among the stars not through aggression or intimidation, but by demonstrating that true strength lies in the wisdom to use overwhelming power only when necessary to protect the innocent. This was indeed what a human army looked like, and the galaxy was learning to be grateful that humans fought for peace rather than conquest.